Welcome back to another live anatomy lesson. I gotta say, the more I do this, I think the better I get at it. Yeah. I hope everyone's day has gone well. As always, my name is Anthony. I am an art student based in Wilmington, Delaware, and I go to an art atelier known as Studio Incaminati in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. So last week we finished up with the back anatomy. We finished up with a side view of the back, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So we finished up with the side view of the back last week. This week we're going to start going into the leg anatomy. And we're going to start with just the thighs, so the upper leg. And we're going to get into a bit of the pelvis anatomy as well, namely the the skeletal anatomy of the pelvis. So as you can see here, I have a diagram drawn out of the pelvis and the upper legs. So the pelvis is like this nice little box in here, and that box includes the top portion of the femur. So just to get us started, this part of the pelvis, this is the back, or the back of that iliac crest. This is known as the pieces. Now, pieces is an acronym that means posterior superior iliac spine. And this part here is the iliac crest, or the iliac spine. And at the front of that, where the pelvis kind of turns in, that is known as the ASIS, which is the anterior superior iliac spine. So these 2 points are going to be very big landmarkers when it comes to anatomy. And then you have the inferior head here, or the inferior portion there on both sides. So here and here, those are both ASIS points, and here, those are both pieces points. And this long curve at the top of the pelvis, that's known as our iliac crest. Now, this portion here, this is the head of the femur, and that head of the femur leads down into the neck of the femur. And right at the side of that bone is the great trochanter. This great trochanter is also going to be another big landmarker for anatomy. Now, this portion in here is known as your sacrum, and that's going to be at the bottom of the spine, and it kind of comes out in this manner, like almost like a little tailbone that never evolved. At the bottom of that sacrum, you have something known as the coccyx, and that's literally just the tip at the bottom of the. Excuse me. It's just. There we go. Yeah, so it's just the tip at the bottom of the sacrum. Here, down the middle of the front of the pelvis, you have something known as the pubic symphysis, and that symphysis, as in symphony, it marks the dead center of the pelvis. And also, whenever you're figure drawing, it usually marks the dead middle between the head and the feet. But that it's subject to change between people. All right, so we have the pieces, we have the iliac crest, we have the ASIS, we have the head of the femur, we have the neck of the femur, we have the great trochanter, we have the coccyx here at the bottom of the sacrum here. We have this pubic symphysis right here, and that's symphysis as in symphony. This is going to be the body of the femur here, or otherwise known as a shaft. This little spot in here on the inside of that knee is going to be known as the medial epicondyle. And on the opposite side, we have our lateral epicondyle. And right in the center in front of that knee bone is, or that femur, at the bottom of the femur, right in the front, you have the patella. The patella is a bone that sits right on top, and right in between the patella and the bottom of this femur is like some cartilage. You also have some ligaments attaching to that knee. And right underneath, we have this big bone in here known as the tibia. And on the side of that, you have the fibula. And we're not gonna go down into the bottom half of the legs just yet, but I want to show this portion because there are muscles that will attach to this bottom part of the knee. So you'll see how they interact overall. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave these labels here, and I'm going to work the anatomy on the left side of the diagram so that we can get a good idea. Right. And we can understand how those muscles interact with the points that I pointed out and how they attach, how they flow. I'm gonna mark this over here. Pubic symphysis. Okay. So I'm going to leave those there. We should have enough space to go over everything. All right. So to get us started, these muscles that I'm about to show you are known as the adductor group. Now, the thing about the adductor group is that they're not very well seen, but they are an important part, and you can use them as anatomical landmarkers. So let's see. So you have something called the pectineus. Now the pectineus is going to attach right in here. Actually, a little bit higher. So the pectineus is going to attach here, and it's going to attach to this upper portion of the femur, and that's going to be the very top of the adductor group in there. Now the next muscle you have is something called the adductor brevis. Now the adductor brevis is going to attach underneath a different muscle known as the adductor longus. But in order to understand how those muscles interact, you got to know what's underneath. So the adductor brevis attaches right here next to the pubic symphysis, and it's gonna come right next to the pectineus, and it's going to attach a little bit lower down here. Now above that, you have the adductor longus, and it's going to attach at the back half of the pectineal line, and it's going to come over and attach even lower that brevis. But here's the thing, you can see that brevis underneath. So if I erase these lines, I know it gets a little confusing, but this right here on top is the adductor longus. This here is a pectineal. So they're right next to each other. And right here in the back, that little shape is what you can see of the adductor brevis. And at the very bottom, you have your adductor magnus. Now, this is going to be the biggest one. And it's going to attach right behind that longus and come all the way down to the bottom portion of the femur. It's going to attach right here, actually, at the top part of that medial epicondyle. That's going to be that attachment point. And there are some like little spacings within these muscles. And these little holes that are in there are for veins. Oh, there's my reason. All right, so this whole portion in here is going to sit behind the muscles we're about to go over. But in order to understand how the muscles on top function and how they create form, you have to know what's underneath and understand that it's going to interact with these muscles specifically and create a certain shape. So our first muscle we're going to go, or our first group of muscles that we're going to go over are the quadriceps. The quadriceps, true to their name, are a group of 4 muscles that create this almost like a teardrop shape, all in all. And they're gonna create this mass in here and come around. It's gonna be something like that. But right in the dead center, underneath the top 3, is something known as the vastus intermedialis. Or intermedius, excuse me. The vastus intermedius. And that vastus intermedius is going to attach right here, the front portion of that shaft of the femur. And it's going to come out and down and attach to the top of the patella. It's going to come out and around and attach down here. Let's get a better view of that. That is your vastus intermedius in there. Now, with that out of the way, we can go ahead and get to the top muscles of the quadricep. So you have your vastus lateralis, and this is from left to right here. Your vastus lateralis is going to attach itself to the greater trochanter up in here. And it's going to come down and out and attach itself down to the patella as well. Down, just like that. Now, on the in the middle of these quadriceps, you have your rectus femoris. Now, your rectus femoris is going to attach itself to this little point in here. Now, that little point is what's known as the anterior inferior iliac spine. So we talked about this point up here. That's the anterior superior iliac spine. And the reason this is called superior is because it's above this point here. And this point is below, so it's called inferior. So you have the acis and the iesis or something, isis, something like that. But my point is that the rectus femoris, or the middle part of the quadricep, is going to attach itself there. And it's going to come down and attach itself right to the front of that patella. It's going to come and it's going to like loop a little bit this way and come down here. We're going to go ahead and erase the stuff inside just to get a clearer view. And now the right side of the quadriceps is something called the vastus medius. Now the vastus medius is actually going to attach itself on the inside. So there's this like little protrusion of the bone in there. So it's going to attach itself inside and underneath that rectus femoris. And it's going to come down and protrude a little bit out as it wraps around or over the adductor group. And it's actually going to be just a little bit lower than the lateralis here. If you go ahead and stand up and feel your quadriceps, you'll feel that the inside of the quadricep does sit a little closer to the patella than the outside does. But they are like rather close. And the way that it's going to look when you're looking at the skin, when you're just looking at the front of the leg, you're going to see like this little bump up here, this little bump here, and this little bump here. So you're going to see all of that happening, and you're going to see this little space, and that little space is the tendons connecting to the patella in there. So you have your quadriceps here. You have your adductor group here. And there is a muscle that goes over top all of this. And that's going to be known as your sartorius. And that sartorius attaches itself at the aces. So that upper portion of this curve here. And it flows right around the vastus medius and attaches to that medial epicondyle right at the side here. So it's going to come around, it's going to wrap, and you can see it just barely, because what it does, if I were to draw the inside of this leg here, so it'll wrap and it'll come down and attach right at the side. But the visual of that muscle is like this nice little ribbon that holds all of these muscles together. And you can see the adductor group in there. You can see the quadriceps in here. You can see that knee that comes in, and your tibia that goes down here. But this is that ribbon of the sartorius. It's a wonderful landmarker for when you're drawing the figure, and you can normally see it really well. It can be hard to articulate when you're drawing a leg, but once you have the anatomy of it down, it's like cakework. That comes down. And so what happens here, it doesn't attach to the medial epicondyle. It actually attaches to the top of the tibia here. I knew I was getting something wrong there. But yeah, so it'll come down and it'll attach itself here. It's like a major thing to point out. Like it doesn't actually attach here, because this sartorius, it secures all the muscles underneath, and it connects to the next bone, and that creates this like little flow, and it kind of protrudes out of the medial epicondyle. The sartorius comes out this way. right. I'm drawing anatomy right now. I don't know if you're still in the live summit. Okay. So there is one more piece of anatomy to consider, and that's going to be something known as your iliotibial band. Right up top here, right behind the where the sartorius attaches, you have this muscle known as the tensor to the fascia lata. And that tensor is going to come out this way. It's going to attach right there next to the sartorius. But it's going to come out this way. And right next, or right underneath that, you have this big tendinous band. And that tendinous band comes all the way around and attaches to the other side of that tibia. Yep. So the proper name for the IT band is the iliotibial tract. But it's this big tendon that provides a lot of support and a lot of tension. It's a very, very important muscle and tendon group. Yep. So we have this front view of the thigh. And here, this is just like one big tendinous area. You have the area of where the tendon above the patella is, and then you have the tendon here underneath the patella, and the patella just kind of connects it all. And this is what I love about the anatomy, about anatomy in general. These muscles serve a purpose, and they don't just allow us to move around and lift heavy objects, but look how they attach and flow right into the next section. They hold us together, you know. The anatomy, or our anatomy, our musculature holds us together and keeps us moving in ways that we don't even realize. And there is a bit of this like tendinous leaf shape to the rectus femoris, and all that is just, it's just more tendons connecting to the pelvis. But it'll like go in, kind of fan in like that, like a leaf, just like that. And the muscle will lean in towards that attachment point. So just a quick review. Here you have the adductor group in here, and that's going to sit underneath all of these top muscles. You have your quadricep, Okay. Now your quadricep consists of the vastus lateralis. It's right here. You have your rectus femoris. And on this side here, let's actually move that down here. This is your vastus medius. And right in the center, underneath that rectus femoris, you have your vastus intermedialis, meaning it's just like the dead center of this quadricep group. Right here, this beautiful ribbon of a muscle that comes from the ASIS, attaches there, and comes and wraps around all the way down to the top of the tibia on the inside. That is known as our sartorius. And that holds all these muscles together and connects our pelvis to the bottom portion of our legs. And right here, this muscle that comes right behind and out from the sartorius connection point as well, right at the ASIS. This is known as our tensor to the fascia. And that's spelled F-A-S-C-I-A-E, lata. L-A-T-A-E. Tensor to the fascia lata in here. And right in here, this big tendon on the outside of our leg that attaches from the fascia tensor to the fascia lata all the way down to the outside of our tibia. That is known as our iliotibial tract. I-L-I-O-T-I-B-I-A-L tract. So overall, it's not that complicated. It looks and feels a bit complicated, but it's actually really simple. You have this big shape in here. It's like a teardrop shape. That's your quadricep. And you have this nice little ribbon that comes all the way around and down. That's your sartorius. Now from this point, of this ASIS point, down to the inside of that pelvis that connects all the way down this big triangle shape, that's your adductor group. And right on the outside is your IT band. Not too complicated. Now we're going to go ahead, we're going to color in these muscles. This is my favorite part. This is like getting the muscles colored in. So here we have the tensor to the fascia lata. Here, I'm going to use my pencil to describe those attachment marks. I'm pretty sure I used this one to outline. It is nice and this deep red. And sartorius is one of my favorite muscles because of the way it flows. And it also provides this turn of form that's a bit different than the rest of the body. So when you see a leg, a thigh that comes out, or even when it's standing, this isn't like a complete perfect cylinder. What that sartorius does is it flattens, and then the adductor group kind of follows that pattern a little bit. So you'll get this look Um, so like let's see. You have this little mode in here, and then it goes into shadow here. So you get like that nice curve of the quads, that knee that comes out, and then the sartorius comes out this way and wraps underneath. So it creates this nice little form in here, and then just kind of flattens out there, and it's such a like pretty view of the leg. You can also like get a little bit of shadow from the underside of the quadricep here, and then a little bit more from the inside of that quadricep, and it creates this nice little form in there, the underneath of the knee. And that is similar to how like comic book artists will shade that in, but the comic book artists are some of the like best guides for you, is they understand the anatomy, and they have to, because of the characters that they're drawing, especially in like these dynamic poses. This adductor group here, and you see how like the sartorius comes around, and there's this like little, just it's so slight, this little bend right in here. That's indicative and characteristic of the sartorius coming around and wrapping around the adductor group. You can tell that the adductor group goes underneath because of the way this wraps around. And that little indicator, it's so subtle. Not everybody will see it, but it's characteristic, and it's a big spot. Like that's one of those spots where subtlety makes all the difference. And you don't have to be subtle all the time, because if everything is subtle, then nothing is subtle. You don't want to be subtle all the time. But that's like one of those points. In my opinion, this is one of those subtle moments that can really like make or break a drawing. And simply because it's just characteristic of the sartorius. It's a leg, and it really leans into the idea of the leg. You have all these little spots in here. And so like this little spacing in here between the muscle and the aponeurosis, or the tendon here, I think this comes out just a little bit more. This comes out like this way. But the space in between where the tendons are, there's cartilage in here. Yeah, there's cartilage in here. So it's not like empty space. It's like there's function in there. Excuse me. The inside of that rectus femoris. And then you have there is attachments in here. These adductor muscles, they provide a lot of support, the adductor muscles. They just don't protrude as much as the other muscles do. You don't see them as well as the others. You see them more in this like shape especially in shadow. You'll see them as just like a triangle shape or something. Yeah, let's go ahead and go ahead and with Sartorius here. If you have any questions, please let me know. I keep grabbing my other coloring pencil, and then I see something that I forgot to do. Yeah. These muscles create flow. They create form. And it's important to understand anatomy so you understand form better. You understand how that form is created. One of my teachers, he talks about the human figure with so much reverence. He has so much respect for the human figure, and he considers it the highest form of art. But his specialty is influencing or like understanding the anatomy of the human figure. And when he talks about constructing the human figure, he says he's looking for the reason why something is happening. He's looking for the why underneath the skin. And when you have that like investigative approach, and you combine that with studies like these, it only lends to your profession a lot more. Is after studying these and like even doing these lives, a lot of these lives are just me studying. But when you do them, when you do the study, and you go back to your practice or your profession or whatever it is you're doing, you apply it, and it's so much easier. Like you start seeing certain things you weren't able to see before. You get this like fundamental understanding behind what you're doing, and it only adds to your repertoire. It will only make you better. That's what I love about this. Not only do I like get to teach, but I get to learn, and I get to be better. So I'm pretty stoked about that. Ooh, straight line. All right. I hope everyone who joined had a good time. I hope you learned something, of course. If you stuck around, thank you. I appreciate you. I love you. Have a great day.